Absolutely amazing. Woo! Yeah, let's give a love shout for a moment. Our AV, our media team, our band, and our amazing voices and our special guest singers today. Wow. And just so you know, we're planning on them not being guests very much longer. Because we're going to move you and move you in. That's what I'm talking about, yes? All right, well. So there's 3 umpires, and they're getting ready for baseball season, and they're talking about how they call strikes and balls. And one umpire says that, I call them the way I see them. And the other umpire says, well, I call them the way they are. The third umpire says, they are what I call them. They are what I call them. I see them as I call them as I see them. I see it, I call them as they are, but they are what I call them. This is what many of us dedicate our lives to, is to have that fundamental understanding ignited within you, that you clearly understand that your life is what you call it. Your God is what you call it. It is what you declare it to be, you see. And that is the power that we carry in our lives. The song says, let me be spiritual. It doesn't say, let me do spiritual. Okay? Let me be spiritual. Not let me do spiritual. I have met so many people in my short time on this earth that are spiritual. I mean, their banner is spiritual, and their books are spiritual. And I found you could be squalling right in front of them, and they just walk on past you because they do spiritual rather than be spiritual. When I first ran into my shaman teacher in my late 30s, I was more full of myself then than I was full of spirit. Those of you that are old souls, the best thing that can happen to you is when something knocks you away and you have to get over your beloved arrogance and you have to open up and be humbled by spirit. But I was full of myself then, and one of the first things I needed to tell her is how spiritual I was. I'm spiritual, Well, she laughed in my face, just like some of you are laughing. Thank you. No, she laughed in my face. She said, well, dear child, let me share something very clearly with you. When you are spiritual, you never have to tell another person that you are spiritual because you are being spiritual, you see. So you say that to yourself. Say it out loud with me. Let me be spiritual. Let me be spiritual. It's not about doing. It's when we do classes, when we do things, when we go to places, that's very admirable. But it's how does it shift my being? That by the very nature I am the Bible someone sees. That very nature I am the hope that someone's longed for. I am the whisper of God that someone is ready to identify. There was a 100-year-old man that was planting outside in his yard, and he was planting peach trees. So his 30-year-old neighbor was just so curious, and he went to him. He said, "Look, it's probably not my business." He said, "But I'm just so curious. You're planting these peach trees, and you're 100, and you know that you're not going to get to eat any of these peaches, right?" He said, "So I'm just curious why you're doing it." He said, "Well, son, the thing of it is," he said, "I've had peaches all my life because somebody else planted peach trees. And I'm planting these peach trees so they will be there for the people thereafter." When you are being spiritual, you do not look to get back from where you give it. Not the person you live with, not the person you love with, not your family, and certainly not always the children that you birthed on the planet. So I haven't had that experience, but it's that kind of thing, is that when you look to get something because of actions you are doing spirituality, you are not being spirituality. Are you with me? Because when you are being spirituality, you're working with a law, you're working with a consciousness, you're working with an essence, you're putting an energy out there on the planet, and whatever you have put out there may not find you again in another 15, 20 years, but it will find you if it's yours to be found. And it will leave you if it doesn't belong to you, because that is what you are and how you immerse yourself in spirit. Myrtle Fillmore, our founder of the Unity Movement, in her book, How to Let God Help You, wrote, "You cannot hope for peace and joy and health and plenty of opportunity for a greater life as long as you have that subconscious mind that's weighted down with old burdens." How many people have you met in your life that along the way they start talking about something really good that's happened to them, and give them 2 minutes and they start talking about 20 years ago? Or there was been, and it's like, well, where did that come from? I thought we were talking about the indwelling Christ of your life, And so it's in people that look at their lives and they go, well, I think I don't think I have any of those burdens in my subconscious mind. Well, good, say that. Unless you see something in your life that does not identify with that. Right? Unless you see something and you go, well, the new me and how I feel, these things I'm seeing, this relationship, how this person talks to me, this critical person, wow, then there's some work to be done. And so you want to invoke that your energy will be changed, right? I love Charlie Brown. And so Nancy walked up to Charlie Brown and she said, try Lucy, excuse me. I'm just saying if you're paying attention. So Lucy walked up to Charlie Brown. She says, I hate my life. I hate my world. I just hate everybody right now. And Charlie Brown said, but I thought you'd been practicing inner peace. She said, well, I do have inner peace, but I have outward obnoxiousness. So, this really matters. When you're being spiritual, it really matters. When you're stepping in to represent your maker, it really matters that you are congruent. It really matters what you put on Facebook. It really matters how you do social media. It really shows up in the difference between your doing spiritual by promoting your summit or being spiritual. And being in the space of how can you give and how can you serve. You understand that, right? It says in Scripture, in a passage, it says we live by faith, not by sight. We live by faith. It's easy to have faith with things that you already see. And by the way, the things you see are because you had faith in them. And people say, well, I don't understand this thing about faith. I said, well, they're going to try to sell you a workshop for 8 hours, but I can tell you in 2 sentences. You understand? You have always had faith. You don't need to go to a workshop to learn how to get faith. You've always had faith. The question is, what have you had faith in? What have you had faith in? Because that's the story and the glory. It's what you've had faith in. If you really believe you are an original idea here for an original concept, here to make the world a better place, then everything else will take care of itself. But have faith, but not by sight. You may not be able to see it right now, but if you have faith in it always, your always is going to come. Because you are being spiritual, not doing spiritual. Does this work for you? Because they're telling me I've got a few more minutes, and I just want to make sure it's resonating with your soul. It certainly resonated with mine. It reminded me of a time when I was in the Army Reserve, and I was in Panama, and we were out in the middle of the jungle, and it was darker than dark. Okay, I thought I'd walk through some darkness. It was dark. And so the captain kept sending me in the middle of the night to guard stuff, buildings and trucks and grass and, guard our territory. And I noticed that if I wanted to beam the flashlight to a head, I could see nothing. It was all a blur. But if I would pull the flashlight and just point it right in front of me, as I walked in that absolute darkness, I could see how to take the next steps. Every time I'd beam ahead, blurry. Coming on back, here. And that's the way our life works. That's why often people say the law doesn't work, because they do not give it time. It looks blurry because they aim to look too far ahead. Have a vision, yes. Have an idea, but let it be with your feelings. Let it be with your emotions of how you're going to feel when you get there, not the play-by-play or the step-by-step. You understand? So it's very important to do that. One of the former CEOs of Unity Worldwide, James Trapp, used to say, when you give directions, God makes corrections. When you give directions, the universe makes corrections. And so it's how you are lined up with you. You're not waiting on outward obnoxiousness. You're not needing the world to be different for you. You need you to be different for your world. It's the way that you line up with that. In these exciting times, the most exciting times that we've ever lived, things are coming together in such a new way, an energetic way. And Elizabeth Blackwell, she said very clearly, she was the first woman physician. And she said, it's wonderful, not always easy to be a pioneer, but wonderful and fascinating. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I wouldn't trade being a pioneer. And now is a time that we're going to see more and more people becoming entrepreneurial, more and more people becoming pioneers, more and more people that are going to come together in new ways and create. And it's just, wow, where's that going to be? I was thinking of how I've always honored my grandfather, John Temple. And I've always honored him because I have his name. And in that space, I have come to realize over the years that what I really have adored about him was he was a spiritual entrepreneur. He was a very prayerful person. He was very dedicated to his church. And though it wasn't a church I was welcomed in, I was welcomed with him. And so in that space, my grandfather, he had 1,000 acres of land, he had a dairy farm, he had all these things, and then he decided he needed to build a little grocery store. Then the chains came in, and he decided that he would change his grocery store because the business wasn't there anymore, and it would become a tire and car repair place. So every time with the times, he would be ahead of that. He was led by faith, not by sight. And that's a core value that if you don't accept that about yourself, it would be a great time for you to accept it. Don't look outside yourself and say, well, there's not opportunities and there's not that, and we don't know where the jobs are going to be. Ernest Holmes would say, success does not depend upon location, opportunity, what store you can go to. Success depends on that inner you. It's hallowed be thy name, thy will be done through me. Say it. Thy will be done through me. Thy will be done through me. Oliver Wendell Holmes would say, too many people die with the song still inside them. Too many people die with the song still inside them. And I would say, too many people never live. And they keep the song still inside them. And so it's that kind of energy. I interviewed a brilliant man on Unity Online Radio a few years ago, Leonard Perlmutter, and he was the founder, still is, of American Meditation Institute. And he has gone so far in bringing this into the Western world that it's now approved, by the Medical Association and things, et cetera. He's doing great things that they validated. Not that we need them to, but, it's a step. It's a step up. It's a step out. But he said something very strong, and it is coming to me because of what Reverend Christie said also. He said, when I was young, I had a teacher teach me that 1 + 2 = 3. And he said, and I've found that works in my life. If I remember 1 + 2 = 3, that works. But I also, when I was growing up, I had teachers teach me that 1 + 2 = 4. 1 + 2 = 4. They taught me inaccurate information. Are you with me? And when I apply the inaccurate information, it causes me pain. And he said, and so I need to remember that aspect of really honoring in my life what I have been taught. In the 80s, people said it so much, I don't know about you, I got tired of it. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Oh, great. And that's true. And that's true. When the student is ready, right? The teacher will appear. I'm calling you forth in a more expansive idea today. We're not talking to people. When the student is ready within you, the teacher reveals itself within you. It appears within you. It appears within you. Please don't say, well, I know I'm not supposed to change anybody, and I'm not supposed to, bring up anything, and I'm supposed to just be omen, and it's not. No. When you are being spiritual, your voice matters. Taking a stand for things matter. Being about life matters. Being in that energetic presence matters, right? There's a man one time that was in a local deli outside of New York, and he watched this dog. He was kind of taken back by it, a big old golden retriever, and in the dog's mouth he had a note, and the store owner came around and he got the note, and there was money, and it said, I want some sausage, and please put it in the bag, and I'll take it to my owner. And so the dog waits, and the owner gives him the bag with the sausage and everything, and the man is just flabbergasted, like, who in the heck is this dog? And he watches the dog go and wait on the bus. And it's almost like he's waiting on the time and knows what time it's coming. He gets on the bus, gets his seat. Man decides he's going to follow him. This is pretty fascinating. He goes with the dog all the way home, and the dog gets there with the bag, and he's at the front door, and he keeps going back and forth and back and door, from the front door to the side door to the back door, and the man's trying to figure out what's going on. Well, all of a sudden, the owner of the dog comes out, and he goes, oh my gosh, you are just some kind of dumb dog. And that man says, are you kidding me? This dog could be on any TV show in the world. And the man says, you don't get it. He's lost his keys twice this week. He's lost his keys twice this week. Now, I can say that it's okay to lose your keys, but if you're married to somebody and you do it every day, it is annoying. I'm just saying. But the real point, is that when you are being spiritual, you celebrate the goodness. You celebrate your goodness. You celebrate your 80%. You don't focus always on the 20% of some kind of self-correct or something that you're waiting. You stay in your faith. You stay in your faith, and this 20% will start dissipating if you start bringing the best of your 80% to the storefront. To the storefront. To be online, to be with us, to be in spiritual community is like 62, 70 hours a year. Really? That's like 3 days of your life that you dip in to create your energy, your essence. I'm going to close with a story of a vacuum salesman that he was in rural Tennessee. And he was so excited because he had this new super duper vacuum cleaner. He couldn't wait to show it off, and he knew he was going to be really good at selling it. And so he knocks on the door, a lady lets him in, and he's just going on and on and on about his amazing vacuum cleaner. And he looks over there, and she has all this dust and dirt in the corner. He says, well, I'd really like to try it. He said, as a matter of fact, I guarantee you that if my vacuum cleaner doesn't pick up all that stuff over there in the corner, I'm going to get down and I'll eat it myself. And the woman says, well, you might as well go ahead and get your fork and your knife then, because we don't have any power here. So the power comes through you. The power comes through you. You're not a piano player because you bought a piano. You're not a drummer because you own a set of drums. You're not an athlete because you bought a glove and you got a plaque of someone famous or you collected baseball cards. You apply yourself. You're in the practice of the being of this energetic presence. You turn your power on so that your electrifying, magnetic life will declare the inner peace that is within you. Thank you, God, for life. Thank you, God, for the privilege of living. And so it is. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you. so much.